Hello, folks. Welcome back. This is Colonel Chris Wyatt, retired U.S. Army in central Pennsylvania with an update as day 10 is now underway in the Ukraine after Russia invaded the country. News at this hour, Moscow continues to block Facebook and other social media sites to keep Russians in the dark. Secretary of State Blinken has raised the temperature in a volatile geopolitical situation with a nuclear-armed Russia, stating Ukraine could absolutely win a war against Russia. Secretary of State Blinken said Ukraine, if it's the intention of Moscow to try somehow to topple the government and install its own puppet regime, 45 million Ukrainians are going to reject that one way or the other. In an interview with the British Broadcasting Corporation after diplomacy summit yesterday on Friday. Blinken also said the U.S. was not seeking a regime change in Russia to end the war. We don't seek that. In any event, it's not up to us. The Russian people need to decide their leadership, he told the BBC. What I would say to the Russian people is, how in the world is this war of aggression advancing your interest, your needs? And idiotic virtue signaling and attention whoring continues unabated in the West, now with having a Quebec diner renaming their French-Canadian dish poutine to Putin in a vain attention-seeking effort to garner customers. This attention whoring continues throughout the developed West with demonstrations that amount to nothing other than virtue signaling, empty virtue signaling. Hollywood celebrities and politicians putting pins on their chests, lapel pins, painting their hands in a show of stupidity and vanity. Ukraine's defense ministry remains active on Twitter with frequent posts, keeping folks updated on their claims about the conflict. Day 9 combat movement saw the Russians linking forces in the southeast after encircling Mariupol and advancing north from Crimea to capture the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the largest in Europe, the 9th largest in the world, consolidating their occupation of Kherson in the south and continuing their push against Chernihiv in the north. Port city of Mariupol has been blockaded by Russian forces, according to the mayor. French press reports. Mayor Vadim Boychenko previously warned the city has no water, heat, or electricity, and supplies of food are running out. He's asked for military assistance and a humanitarian corridor to allow the safe evacuation of some of the city's 400,000 residents. In a message posted on his Telegram account, Boychenko said, "For now, we are looking for solutions to humanitarian problems and all possible ways to get Mariupol out of the blockade. Our priority is the establishment of a ceasefire so that we can restore vital infrastructure and set up a humanitarian corridor to bring food and medicine into the city." United Kingdom's Defense Intelligence continues to release open source information to the public, claiming Ukraine's air and air defense forces continue to hinder Russia and delay their advance. Now, as I suggested in the build-up to this over the past 3 months, in his tail-wagging-the-dog escalation of tensions leading up to the Russian invasion, President Joe Biden's intentional efforts at distracting the public from his administration's pervasive failures is working. At least one poll has him up 8 points in just a week as the wartime president rise to popularity with easily duped rubes, gaining popularity on the graves of Ukrainians. Russians apparently are not allowing humanitarian corridors. Ukraine officials on Friday claim Russia has yet to honor its pledge to create humanitarian corridors in war-torn Ukraine so that civilians can safely flee, find food, medicine, be brought in for those staying behind. Russian and Ukrainian diplomats had agreed on Thursday to allow for the formation of such safe corridors. Gennady Laguta is the regional governor in Kherson, claimed on Facebook that Russians said they would provide humanitarian assistance themselves. Meanwhile, the Ukraine claims it has 19 trucks to ready with aid, but they have not been allowed to proceed through to Kherson. Well, good news. Look who's coming to the rescue, folks. Vice President Kamala Harris will visit Poland and Romania to demonstrate the strength of NATO. Vice President Kamala Harris will travel to Poland and Romania next week. She's going to wait a week to do it in a show of support for the NATO allies amid Russia's invasion of neighboring Ukraine. She'll visit Warsaw and Bucharest Wednesday through Friday, March 11th. Now, White House statement on Friday claimed that her visit will demonstrate the strength and unity of the NATO alliance and U.S. support for NATO's eastern flank allies in the face of Russian aggression. It also highlighted our collective efforts to support the people of Ukraine, which amount to very little. Ukrainian President Zelinsky slams NATO in a blistering speech, saying Ukrainians will die from weak response. Volodymyr Zelinsky slammed NATO for holding a weak and confused summit yesterday, where leaders refused to impose a no-fly zone over the war-torn country. He called for the airspace restrictions to slow Russia's invasion But NATO leaders rejected requests to avoid getting directly involved in military conflict, instead pledged more economic sanctions. I'm sure that made Zelinsky feel very warm in his heart. He sent on Friday a video message filmed in an undisclosed location that NATO's failure to institute the no-fly zone was a green light for more bombing by Moscow, and that he told NATO leaders that future deaths from the invasion would lie partly on their shoulders. You had to think about people, about humanity itself, and what did you think about at that summit? All the people who will die starting from this day will also die because of you, because of your weakness, because of your disunity. And with this, I take exception with President Zelinsky. Ukraine is not NATO's fight. It's not a NATO member. It's not an offensive alliance. It's a defensive alliance. Never mind the foolish decision of NATO to go into Afghanistan. It was foolhardy. Ukraine is not NATO's fight. It's Ukraine's fight and Russia's fight. That doesn't mean that Western countries can't support Ukraine with financial assistance, weapons, intelligence, but direct involvement of NATO troops could lead to an escalation between nuclear armed states. Talk about the height of foolhardy action over the Ukraine. Now, Zelinsky, you've had plenty of time to prepare your nation to defend itself, to raise the size of your forces, and to import weapons. You've done some of that, but you didn't do sufficient amount. It's not the world's responsibility, certainly not NATO's responsibility. Samsung has become the latest company to suspend shipments to Russia, according to Bloomberg. In a statement, the company said, "Our thoughts are with everyone who has been impacted, and our priorities to ensure the safety of all our employees and their families." Samsung will donate $6 million, including $1 million in consumer electronics products, to humanitarian assistance efforts in the region. Microsoft has also suspended all sales and services to Russia, while Apple has suspended sales of its iPhones and restricted other services, presumably the iStore and cloud services. Unknown if that's the case or not. A Sky News crew has been evacuated back to the United Kingdom from Ukraine after journalists were reportedly shot during a suspected ambush by Russian death squad. A team of 5 were attacked while they're in their car after unsuccessfully trying to visit the town of Bucha near Kiev. Chief correspondent with Sky News Stuart Ramsey, along with the camera operator Richie Mockler, were shot. Ramsey in the lower back, while Mockler took 2 rounds in his body armor. And in the latest development, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelinsky will address the United States Senate Saturday morning in a Zoom call at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, 10 hours from now. This call was requested by Zelinsky. It's unknown what he hopes to achieve with the U.S. Senate, as President Biden continues to allow U.S. companies to purchase oil from Ukraine. But his jihad against the U.S. energy industry continues unabated. And there you have it, folks. That's the update at this hour, 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, on what is now day 10 in the Ukraine of this Russian invasion. If you're not a subscriber, why don't you take a moment, become one, push that button right down there, subscribe to the program. I appreciate your support. God bless, and thoughts and prayers for all the innocents that have been dragged into a conflict between arrogant leaders and the failure of leadership by the callow leader here in the free world. Good night, folks.